Wow, I haven't said anything yet. You don't know, you're going to want to clap after we're done. Woo! It's a beautiful day, isn't it? It's great to see everyone. Some friends from Marin and the city, and good to see the Warriors t-shirt back there. It's nice to see you, Demetrius. Yay. yeah. So as I said in the beginning, this focus on spiritual understanding from Emily Cady's book, Lessons in Truth, is really helping us to understand one of the 12 powers. And again, the 12 powers are those qualities of divine, the qualities of God that are in each one of us. We say in those 5 principles, there's one presence, one power active in my life and in the universe, and that power is in each one of us. All those powers of the divine, are in each one of us. And so when we're focusing, and certainly as unity students or unitics, I always feel like people in unity are students. We're not like done. We're never really done. We're always kind of looking for a little bit deeper understanding about life and who we are. Some are more philosophers, some are more kind of intellectual, some are more mystic, but there's always this quality of kind of going deeper. Am I talking to the right bunch here? I think so. Yeah, I think so. So the interesting thing for me is I've been teaching Lessons in Truth, and I told this to the class. My book is from January 1992, so that was a few years ago. I've been reading and teaching this book of Emily Cady's for many, many years, and every single time things change. They get a little bit deeper in terms of my own, not just understanding in the sense of knowing the lesson, knowing the words, but deepening that inner knowing of what these words mean to me in my life and how I can use them in terms of being a human being, because that's what it's all about. And if we look at the teachings of Jesus, which is what Unity, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore really based their teachings on, the teachings of Jesus. He was really, his whole method and all of his teachings were there to help us really embrace the understanding and the deep knowing that we are made of God's stuff. This was what it was all about, and there's lots of different ways he taught us, but that was the main focus, for us to really understand at the level not of knowing the facts about it, but understand at the deep level of knowing. Not knowing about it, but knowing it. That's the difference in intellectual understanding, is knowing about something, right? You could say, I know about that. I know how to make that coffee. I know about this particular philosophy. I know the Unity 5 principles. But spiritual understanding is about knowing it, grokking it, owning it, claiming it as who we are, and acting from that truth, which is our 5th principle. So it's been interesting just looking at Emily Cady a little bit deeper, and when she talks about spiritual understanding in this book, she gives it many different, what we would almost call definitions. And I want to give you a few of these because something will resonate for you at the intellectual level. And kind of right now, that's where I'm talking. I'm talking to that intellectual level. But later, at the end of my talk, we're going to go into a meditation that I learned in India in 2012, and it's going to take us to a deeper place of knowing, beyond the intellect of knowing about. It's going to take us to the deep level of simply knowing. So some of the things that she said in the book, and again, like last week, there's some sheets in the back with some just notes from the book. If anybody wants to take those, feel free to do that. She said, understanding is a spiritual birth. Understanding is a spiritual birth. It's a revelation of God within the heart of each person. Now, when something is revealed to you, what is it like when something is revealed? You kind of go, oh, hey, I get that. Oh, yeah, now I get it. It's kind of like, aha. So spiritual understanding is like that. We have this kind of, she calls it a flash. There's like a flash of knowing. Jane had a flash in class. She did. She had a flash in class. And, just like, whoa, I get this. We've all had that, right? In different aspects of our life. But that's an aspect of spiritual understanding. It's this revelation of God within our heart. And when we're talking about heart, we're talking about the feeling nature of who we are and also that aspect of our subconscious. So becoming aware of that. Also, spiritual understanding, Emily Cady said, is consciousness of the indwelling Father. So, we've talked in the past, I brought this up over the past few lessons, about these 3 levels of consciousness that Unity talks about. The one level, the subconscious, which is more about kind of the things that are in our memory bank, things that are just kind of running in the background. There's probably some computer equivalent of stuff running in the background that Jim would know. But we have this stuff running in the background, and a lot of us operate on autopilot because of the stuff running in the background. Some of it is things that happened when we were kids, something somebody said to us that we kind of grokked onto and believed to be true about ourselves. Or we take some situation or some story we have, and we put it forward and we worry that it's going to happen again in the future. So this subconscious level is it's a little bit beyond our awareness, but it's operating all the time. The next level that we have is our connection with divine mind, which is they call superconscious. And I'm going up, but it's everywhere. It's not like it's up, down, over kind of thing like that. But superconscious mind, which we have access to all the time, but we don't always take advantage of that access. And the part of us that accesses that superconscious mind or gets caught up in the subconscious and the habits and patterns is the conscious mind. It's what's going on every day. And Fillmore called that aspect of our being our soul. He said that the conscious mind is the soul, and the soul has a choice. The soul is pivotal. The soul can say, I'm really going to believe that story that my mother told me that I, was not ever going to be able to make it. Or I can believe that I'm a divine child of God and that I inherit these extraordinary gifts of spirit. So we have this kind of pivotal quality in consciousness. And when Emily Cady is saying that spiritual understanding is the consciousness of the indwelling Father, where's she taking us in consciousness? She's not going, you want to go back to what your mom told you about how you were never going to make it, or you want to get caught up in the news that's catastrophizing and making life so chaotic. Instead, it's the consciousness of the indwelling presence of the divine, which means the consciousness of all those 12 powers that are active within each one of us. And not only understanding it from an intellectual point of view and going, oh yes, I have faith, or oh yes, I understand the power of divine order, but rather having the spiritual knowing of those powers, that they're always available to you, and that you have to cultivate them truly. So in John, we talk about spiritual understanding as a gift of God. Spiritual understanding is one of the gifts of God. And it's the revelation, again, of the divine presence within each one of us. When she talks about spiritual understanding as a flash, Emily Cady said, spiritual understanding is the flash of the Most High within your consciousness. The flash of the Most High. It's the revelation of the living Christ, the living Christ, which is not Jesus as a person, but rather that most highest quality of being that we can carry, the Christ consciousness. It's a revelation and awareness and a birth of this quality and consciousness in all of us. So when we hear the statement, seek ye first the kingdom, and all these things will be added to you, what we're hearing is seek first the consciousness of the presence and power of the divine within each one of us. And there's so many stories in the Bible, and I was just thinking, one that I think the prodigal son is one of those stories that I think could be used for almost any lesson that any minister ever wanted to teach, because there's so many little pieces in it. But the story of the prodigal son is that there are two sons, and they're living with their father, who's a very wealthy man. And the one son decides he wants his inheritance now. And so he asks the father, and the father's like, sure, you can have it. Already are we looking? This is not about a father, and it's not about two sons, okay? This is about the presence of the divine within us and how we can have this kind of divided consciousness within us. And so the son takes all his goodies, his inheritance, which is all the gifts of God, basically. It's not really about money, but it sounds like it's about money. And he squanders it, he's on money and women and gambling and whatever other things the Bible had to say at those times. But he spends all his money, and he spends his money to such a point that he finds himself living with pigs. And he's eating the husks that are thrown out for the pigs. You could not be much lower living your life, right? So he reaches a certain bottom in his life with this journey that he's taken in basically lower consciousness, squandering all the gifts that he's been given, his inheritance. And does anybody remember what the line is that is in the Bible? It says, he comes to himself. He comes to himself. This is exactly what Emily Katie's talking about, that we have this revelation of the truth of who we are. So in the story, the prodigal son comes to himself, and he turns and he heads back toward his father's house, whatever. And even before he gets near, the father is already walking toward him with a robe and the ring and, creating a feast, because he's so happy that the son who has disappeared and gone is now back. And this is the promise of the divine, isn't it? It's the promise. The minute we have that flash of awakening of who we are, of the truth of who we are, all the creative energy of the divine is available to us. All the gifts, the ring, the robe, the feast, it's all there. So spiritual understanding is one of those qualities that we can't really go searching for it. It's not something you can just go like, I'm going to go looking for spiritual understanding, because you're going to stay in the intellect, right? The interesting thing in Emily Katie, and she talks about how spiritual understanding comes to us as we begin to use the gifts that we've been given in the world. As we begin to actively use the gifts, and that could be the gift of faith. It could be how we let somebody borrow our faith in them, borrow my believing that you can do this. That's me using my gift of faith and generously giving it to someone else. It could be like our wonderful music trio over here, using the gift that we've been given of voice and song. And when we use it, more energy comes in, because we're in that divine flow all the time. So the way for us to really experience the knowing that is spiritual understanding is to begin to use the gifts that we already have, whatever those gifts might be. And in the giving, we move into a space of receiving more of the gifts of God. And that receiving is that revelation of the truth of who we are. Super powerful. So I'm just going to see if there's any. One of the things that I mentioned this teacher last week. Her name is Vera Dawson Tate. And she was one of the older Unity teachers at the Village years ago. They called her Miss Lessons in Truth, because she was the expert on lessons in truth when they were teaching correspondence school at Unity Village. And she has a series of audio files that are in Truth Unity, which I had mentioned last week as well. But she talks about how, she says, we take care of the soul. And if you remember, the soul is that pivotal part of consciousness where we make right choices. We choose not the loaves and fishes. We choose not to go after the things in the material world. We choose to be moving into higher consciousness and opening ourselves up to the presence and the power of the God life within. She says, we take care of our soul. That is the soul consciousness of the heart and the mind. The heart and the mind. God will take care of the rest. It's a variation on let go and let God. Because to me, it's much more of an active awareness of the power that we have to choose what's going on in consciousness. So that when we see those things that are in the subconscious mind that are not the truth of who we are, that are old patterns, old thinking, old habits that we don't want anymore, that we can use tools. We can use prayer, we can use affirmations, we can use denials, we can get somebody else to reflect the truth of who we are. That we have this conscious choice to move into higher consciousness. And when we do that, when we allow our soul consciousness and the conscious mind to make right choices, and we let go and let God, everything flows in our life. You know, we've all heard let go and let God, haven't we? So one of the things that I always loved about Unity, and I think the first time I ever came to Unity, I was kind of a mess. I came out of a 12-step meeting, and I came with a friend. And I used to sit in the back row, and I would just weep because I felt like, oh, I've come home. You know, I didn't know that such a place existed. And I remember the meditation where just going into the silence for 30 seconds probably, it was like, oh my God, what is this? What is this? But Unity really honors that. You know, we honor this time of stillness, of quiet, of prayer and meditation. And we really encourage people to use that time to go deeper into their own spiritual journey, to find a deeper connection with the presence of God. For me, going to India, which I started in 2006, was kind of a companion to that same journey of deepening the mystical practices, deepening the experience of the divine, the experience of God, both inside and out. And one of the things that I learned when I was in India, this was in 2012, I was taught this particular meditation called the soul sync meditation, which is kind of interesting when you think about the idea that, you know, we're talking about soul being that quality of being where we have a choice to choose. Do I choose something in sort of a low vibe? Do I choose to get caught up in the news or get caught up in some sort of sense of lack and limitation? Or do I choose a sense of harmony, peace, a sense of oneness that we sang? You know, that's that soul quality. So the soul sync meditation is a beautiful, powerful meditation. And actually, this is the first time I've ever brought something from my India experience into the church, but it felt like it was just the right thing to help us have an experience, a deepening experience of this quality of spiritual understanding. So I'm going to give you a little explanation of what you're going to do. I want you to take everything off your lap, because this meditation, and if you're in resistance to do it, just be in resistance, enjoy your resistance. I'm not taking anybody's inventory. Whenever you're doing a meditation, it's really important that you're sitting up straight. You're not like slumped in your chair. So, you know, just let the chair support you. Be supported by the chair. You don't have to, you know, be in any kind of crazy posture. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be counting with our fingers to a count of 8. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if that's hard to you, you can just count with whatever is an easy way for you to count. But hopefully that's an easy way for people. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to go through some different breath practices. We're basically going to go through 4 different rounds of 8 with our fingers. And I'm going to invite you to do what is known as a conscious breath. And a conscious breath is where you're, if you can, inhaling and exhaling through your nose. But you're going to make your exhalation a little bit longer than the inhalation. And this has an impact, the neuroscience of this, I could go into that, but I'm not going to go deeply into it. But it definitely has the capacity to slow down the nervous system so that you're not in fight or flight mode. You're really moving things into a slower pace, and the inner body and the vagus nerve is slowing down too. You're bringing more nitric oxide to your body in part of these meditations. So we're going to go through 4 different rounds of this. The first, you're just going to be doing the conscious breath for 8 fingers. And then I'm going to let you know it's time to move to the second part. The second part, you're going to inhale through the nose, and when you exhale, you're going to hum like a bee, and it's going to kind of vibrate your head. So it's like this. So let's just try that together. Inhaling. You can feel the vibration in the head. The third time we go count of 8, you're going to notice that tiny little pause between your inhalation and your exhalation. You're not going to make it happen, but you're just going to notice it. So just take a moment and just notice right now as you inhale. Just be aware of that little tiny pause. There's a pause. So you're going to do 8 awareness of pause with your fingers. And the last one, we're going to do 8 times, and inwardly we're going to say to ourselves, I am, I am, I am. So that's going to be the first part of the meditation. Then I'm just going to invite you to just touch your fingers. And again, it's not a hard touch at all. It's just like you're holding a little piece of paper between there, just holding your fingers. You can have your fingers in your lap. I'm just going to invite you to hold your fingers like this, and then I'll lead you through the rest of the meditation. So I'll be leading you through most of it. And if you finish before and we start a next round, just sit in peacefulness. If you're not done, just stay with me. It's no problem. Can we have the lights down, please? So I'd invite you to close your eyes. And again, just relaxing your hands in your lap. I'm going to begin by taking 8 conscious breaths. By that, your inhalation might be to the count of 1, you doubling it with a slowing down that exhalation. And as you breathe, follow the breath. And if your mind gets distracted, don't be concerned, just come back to your breathing. So let's begin now, taking 8 conscious breaths, counting with our fingers. Inhaling. Now we're going to take 8 breaths, and at the exhalation, make the humming sound of a bee at a low vibration. Inhale. the next count of 8, observe the tiny pause between each inhalation and exhalation. And on this next count of 8, inwardly whisper to yourself and affirm, I am, as you exhale. Now touching your index finger and your thumb, gently resting your hands in your lap. And feel or visualize your limited self expanding into the cosmic self. Imagine your body and everything around you dissolving into light without boundaries, without limitations, into the limitless field of consciousness. This is an unlimited field of infinite possibilities. Now make an intention for the fulfillment of any one desire or any manifestation of one intention that you may have in your heart. Visualize and feel as if it's already happened. Feel it happening right now. and feel the total sense of fulfillment and joy. And offering your gratitude for the blessing of this time, this place. Relaxing your hands. And whenever you're ready, you can gently open your eyes.